Hello guys, my name is Ilya, the Christmas is coming and I think it's a great time to have some fun, and today I would like to present you a LOLCODE tutorial which is going to explain how to get started with this esoteric language for cat lovers. So basically LOLCODE emerged as a joke experiment and it is based on an internet meme that is called LOLCAT. So this is just an image that usually features some cat and some funny text, and well, the text itself usually contains some grammar mistakes which are made on purpose, and it is called LOLSpeak, which basically means, well, that the cat can speak but with lots of mistakes, basically. And there are some popular cats, like maybe a long cat, or a serious cat, or maybe a monorail cat, etc. So well, effectively LOLCODE was inspired by this catspeak and it was introduced by Adam Lindsay in 2007. So this language doesn't really have a clear definition, but still it is possible to write relatively complex programs in it. Of course, I'm not saying that you should use this language in production, but still playing around with this language is quite fun. So well, in this post I'm going to guide you through this language and show various examples. Okay, so first of all we need an interpreter to run our scripts. Therefore, we're going to use LOLCODE interpreter written in C language. So to get started, download the latest release from GitHub, unpack the archive, and then you can install this interpreter. So if you are on Linux or Mac, these steps are quite simple. You will need CMake and Python. Then you just run this command and you should be good to go. As for Windows, things are somewhat more complex, so you will need Python. You will also require MSys2. And then you just run some commands and your interpreter should be compiled. But alternatively, you can simply use REPL-IT online tool, which supports LOLCODE as well. Okay, so now let's proceed to practice. So all your programs should be stored inside the files with LOL extension, and each script is opened with the hi instruction that is followed by the language number. We are going to be using 1.2, but well, actually this version doesn't have any effect at the moment. And to close your script, you use OK thanks bye command. And now let's see how to add comments. To add a single line comment, you should use by the way keyword. And to write multi-line commands, you should wrap your text with O by the way and TLDR keywords. So inside you can place multi-line commands. Next, let's see how to work with variables. And to, well, do something with a variable, you should declare it first. To do that, use I has a statement. Then provide the name of your variable. So now the variable is declared and you can assign some value to it by employing your variable r and then the value. So basically this r is simply the assignment operator. Also note that here I have introduced some indentation for the main code block, but it is not required and this indentation doesn't have any special meaning. Also, you can declare a variable and assign some value to it in one go by adding its and then the value right after the declaration. As for the supported types, there are 4 main types. The first is string. It is called yarn. So for example, you can say cat, or you can say this is a string. So all the strings are wrapped with double quotation marks. You can also create empty strings, or you can use interpolation by providing the following construct. So inside those curly brackets, you simply insert the name of your variable. The next type is number, the integer. It is called number, basically, and also there is a type of float, and it is called number. And finally, there is a Boolean type, which is called true of, so that's true or false, basically. And this type supports only two values, which are win, which means true, and fail, which means false. And finally, if a variable doesn't have any value upon declaration, it is considered to be untyped, and this type is called noob. And finally, note that in LOLCODE we use dynamic typing, so you don't have to provide any type when declaring your variable. Let's talk about some additional concepts. So first of all, there are no global variables in LOLCODE, so all your variables are local to the main block, or to the current function, or to the cycle. So there are no global ones. And you cannot access a variable before its declaration. Next, speaking about the naming conventions. So, well, the guidelines are quite simple. The variable must begin with a letter. Then you can provide other letters, numbers, or underscores. But you cannot use dashes, you cannot use special characters or white spaces. The letters can be in lowercase or uppercase, or you can use combination of those, but remember that the variable names are case sensitive. Now let's talk about operators that LOLCODE supports. They are written in prefix format. So let's see the mathematical operators first. So the addition is written as sum of. Then you provide the first argument, then you say n, and then the second argument. The subtraction is written as diff of. Then multiplication is written as product of. Division is quotient of. The integer division is mode of, and the integer division is, well, an ordinary division, but the result doesn't have the float part. So, for example, if you divide 3 by 2 using integer division, then you are going to get 1. Also, you can find the maximum of two numbers by using bigger of. And finally, you can find the minimum by using smaller of. Note, by the way, that if both arguments are integers, then the result is going to be an integer as well. But if one of the numbers is float, then the result is going to be float as well. And finally, the interpreter will try to cast your arguments to numbers. So here, for example, you can say that the 2 is a string. But if the argument cannot be converted properly, then the error will be raised. Now let's write a small program to swap our two variable values without using the third variable. And so we have two variables, a and b. And, well, to achieve the desired result, first we have to calculate the summary of two values and store it in the first variable. Then the new value of variable b equals to variable a minus the old value for variable b. And finally, the new value of variable a is calculated as variable a minus variable b. And so to make sure that this script is working, let's use the visible command to display some text in the terminal. We are going to discuss this operator later in more detail. Now let's discuss the Boolean operators. So to introduce the negation, you just say not. Then you have and, which is written as both of. Also you have or, it is written as either of. Also you have XOR, which is written as one of. And notice there is a grammar mistake here. Also you can provide AND with infinite arity. So this effectively means that you can provide as many arguments as needed. To do that, you say all of. And finally, you can use OR with an infinite arity. To do that, you say any of. And please note that if the arity is infinite, you have to provide this mk keyword at the end of the statement. Okay, now let's see how to compare something. And to compare two values, you can use both same, that means equal to, and you can use different, which means not equal to. The problem is there are no operators like greater than or less than, therefore you have to use the following idiom. For example, if you would like to introduce greater than or equal to operator, you have to write it in the following way. You say both same, then the first argument, and as the second argument, you are finding the maximum using the first and the second argument. To perform string concatenation, you can use the smoosh operator. So this operator has an infinite arity, which means that you should use the mk keyword. Next, let's see how to cast types. And in order to do that, you can use the make operator with the grammar mistake. Then you will provide some variable and then a type. Also, you can recast a variable using this following expression. The name of your variable then is now a, and then the type of the new type of your variable. Okay, now let's see how to print something to standard output. And to do that, you use a visible operator. This operator has an infinite arity, but it doesn't need to be closed with mk. So this visible operator converts all the arguments to strings, and by default it adds a special carriage return character to the end of the string, but you can suppress it by providing a bang symbol and exclamation mark at the end of your string. Next, to get an input from the user, you can utilize the gimme operator, and this operator should be followed by the name of your variable. And note that this operator always converts the value to a string. For example, we can create a program to convert kilometers to miles, and so 1 mile is roughly 1.6 kilometers. So let's define two variables. Let's ask the user to enter his or her number. Then we should convert kilometers to a number. And then finally we can calculate the number of miles by performing a simple division and then output everything to the screen. So let's see how it works by entering maybe 10. And as you see, everything is working just great. Now let's take a look at how to create conditionals. And the approach is quite simple. So first of all, you should provide some expression. And then after that, you are saying, oh really? It should be said on the next line. Or you can provide this oh really on the same line, But in order to do that, you should provide this comma character. But in order to do that, you should separate expression and or really with a comma. Then you should provide the branches of your condition. So the true branch is defined with yeah, really. And the false branch is defined with no way. And finally, you can close the code block with OIC. And additionally, you can provide else if branches that are written with maybe keyword. And this maybe should be followed by some expression. So that's how you can define the else if statements. Also, you have the case statements, which are called switch statements in some languages. So those statements start with an expression, which should be followed by a what the fuck statement, basically. So yeah, that's a funny language, shall we say. So for example, you can check the value maybe of a color variable, and then you are providing the oh my god keyword that is followed by some literal. And this literal must be unique. Then you are providing the block of your condition, and you can provide as many oh my god keywords as needed. And finally, you close the statement with OIC. Also note that you can provide the fallback block by using oh my god what the fuck keyword. And finally, inside those blocks, you can provide get the fuck out statement, which means exit this block immediately. Now let's see how to work with loops. And to create a loop, you would say I'm in your. Then you are providing the label, which acts as a loop's name. And to close the loop, you are saying I'm out your, and then the name of your cycle. So in this case, we are creating an endless loop. So it has to be stopped explicitly. And to exit from the loop, you can say get the fuck out, just like this. But that's not all. So you can create while and until loops. To create them after the label, you are providing the action. Then you are saying your, then the variable name. And then you can say while or until. And finally, you can provide the expression. So the action can be any function that accepts a single argument, or you can say upping to increment the given variable by 1 on each iteration, or you can say nerfing to decrement the given variable. As for the variable, it is temporary and it is local to the loop, and you should not declare it explicitly. You can utilize this variable inside the loop, of course. So, for example, we can create a while loop that has 3 iterations. So it is going to work while the temporary variable is less than or equal to 2. So that's how you can define such loop. Next, let's see how to create an until loop. So instead while, we should say till. And let's also tweak the expression a bit. And this loop is going to run until the temporary variable is less than 2. So here is the output, which is nice. And finally, let's see how to use functions in LOLCODE. So the function definition starts with how is I statement. Then you provide the name of your function, and then you can provide an optional list of arguments by saying your argument and your argument, etc. So you can provide as many arguments as needed. And to close a function, you say if you say so. So in this example, we have created a function to calculate the circle perimeter using the known formula. Also, to return some value, you should say found your and then the expression. Or you can return from the function with no value by saying get the fuck out. In this case, the function is going to return a type of noob. Alright, now you can call this function by saying I is and then the name of your function with the optional list of arguments, and don't forget to close this statement with an mk keyword. In this example, we are calculating the perimeter of a circle using the given radius, and we output the result to the screen. And of course, we can further enhance this program. So, for example, let's define a result variable inside the function, and let's check if the radius equals to 0 or not. And so if it equals to 0, we are just saying get the fuck out. If that's not true, then we're going to calculate the result and then simply return this result. Now let's define two more variables. And let's ask the user to enter the radius. Don't forget to convert radius to a number, otherwise that's going to be a string. And then you can say that perimeter equals 2, and then, well, just call the function as before. Also, please note that now our function can return either a number, or it can return just a noob type if the radius is 0. Therefore, we should convert our perimeter to a string explicitly because, well, the interpreter cannot convert it implicitly. So if you try to display the noob type in the terminal, you will get an error. Therefore, to overcome this problem, we should convert everything explicitly. Alright, and now finally let's see how to write recursive functions. So for example, let's calculate factorial of a given number. So for example, factorial for 5 is calculated as 1 multiplied by 2, then by 3, by 4, and by 5. So as a result, you're going to get 120. The factorial for 0 is 1. And the factorial for negative numbers cannot be calculated, but for simplicity we can say that factorial for a negative number is also 1. So inside our calculate factorial function, let's check that the number is not less than 2. Because if it is less than 2, then we are returning the result right away. If it's not less than 2, then we are defining the new factorial number as the old factorial number minus 1, and the new result should be a product of the current result and the current factorial number. And finally, we are doing the recursive call by running the same function again, but with new values. Finally, outside of the function, let's define the factorial number. Let's ask the user to enter a value for it. Let's convert this value to a number. It should be an integer because you cannot calculate factorial for a decimal number. And finally, let's call our function with this factorial number and 1. So the 1 is going to be the initial result. And let's display the result to the screen. Now let's see how it works. I'm going to enter 5. And we get the correct result. Also, we can enter something else, and you can see it works as well. So basically that's it. These are the basics of LOLCODE. Hopefully you had some fun today. Please note that the textual version of this video is available at Lokalise blog. And also note that the source code can be found on GitHub, so feel free to use it. And well, that's it for today, folks. I thank you for staying with me, and until the next time.